If you have questions, concerns, and are just lost when it comes to planning for retirement, meet Steve Hoyl and Derek Caldwell of the Hoyl Financial Group. I think that's also a concern of folks, especially as they're getting close to retirement. Maybe with the course of everything that's happened here, be it just the market in general. The market, as we've seen, is uncertain. Lots of volatility. Then you throw in the war in there as well. Some people might be pressing the pause button saying, I don't want to put anything in baskets. I want to press the pause button until things slow down. Steve, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, my thoughts are, we tell people, let us help you in that retirement red zone, 5 years before you retire or those first 5 years of retirement. One big mistake can totally wipe you out. And I think people really need to have a plan. We're not getting many calls right now from our current clients because they have a plan. They're prepared for this. But it's people that we've talked to. I think we need to get back together, and people are really starting to notice the losses they're having in their 401k. And I've always said this, and I mean it seriously. If that 401k cut in half, you had a 201k, how would that affect the retirement that you've always dreamed of? Especially if you're a year or 18 months from retiring, it could totally wipe you out. What Derek Caldwell, our Chief Operating Officer, coined was, give me 2 hours or give your boss 2 more years. I'm going to tell you something. You may give your boss 5 more years in this economy. It's really serious, Jess. The cost of goods kind of blows me away. There's a little taco stand that I pick up breakfast tacos out down the street from me. And it's always for 2 tacos. It's $8.12. And they're these great tacos. You can get like egg, cheese, and double bacon, or egg, cheese, and beef. And they're on corn tortillas, and the people are so sweet. Jess, I was in there the other day, and it went up to $10. And
yikes.
That's a lot of difference, 20%. And they're just trying to make ends meet. They're trying to deal with it. And I think small businesses are really experiencing that. There's a restaurant that I liked here called Perch. And every time I went, it was busy, but it was a Friday or Saturday night. She's closing in about a month because she said she didn't have enough repeat customers. We're seeing so many restaurants close. I'm going to tell you something. I think people need to buckle up, get a plan, work the plan, and be successful for their future in retirement. It's everything.
Absolutely. And we talked about, not having all your eggs in one basket. I bring that up because a lot of folks think as they're working in that accumulation phase that the market's the only way to make money for retirement, right? You have that 401k, you throw money towards it for the past 30, 40 years. Now what? The truth of the matter is, and Steve, you'll go into more detail about this, is that there's different tools and strategies that not only can create income, but help grow your income. And by the way, you don't have all the risk that you could potentially have in the market. And these are items and topics that you discuss with individuals each and every single day. Usually we have people call that say, I heard about this guaranteed income option. Steve, tell me more about it.
The guaranteed income option is really real. When people are 59 and a half, most retirement plans, 401ks, 403bs, whatever they are, you can take control of your money. And what we love to do is carve some of that out and then put it in a guaranteed income strategy so it rolls up every year. People are so concerned about how much money they've grown, but what really matters is how much money can you create every month for the rest of your life and your spouse's life in retirement. That's when guaranteed income really matters. So a lot of times the roll-up is at 8 or 9%, which is a lot more than what you can make in the market. Plus, it's guaranteed, Jess. That G word is really important. It's contractually guaranteed. So it's really neat to sit down with people and say, you've got 3 years, you have 4 years. Look what we could do and how much income when you walk out the door you'll have. But also, if something changes during that time and you need to go ahead and retire, you'll be fine. And then, Jess, I'm a big person that likes to talk about catch-up buckets. What I mean by that is having buckets of money that you can turn on the income, but the same amount of buying power as you did for the rest of your lives. And then I think the other thing, when you pass a guaranteed income, you talk about different baskets, different eggs. You need a tax strategy. I think so often people don't have a tax strategy, so all of a sudden they're in the highest tax bracket down the road when they start taking their required minimum distributions. Their Social Security is taxed, they're paying the Medicare tax, and I'm going to tell you, it's tough. Whereas we could get started now. We could do some Roth conversions. We could show you whether you did it all in 1 year or over 3 or 4 years, wipe out the taxes and get the government out of being your tax partner. Once you pay all those taxes, that's your money. You can have tax-free. I didn't say tax-preferred. I said tax-free income the rest of your life, and then you can pass the rest of it on tax-free to your kids. Now, there are some exclusions, the estate tax, but you've got to have a lot of money to have to worry about that. But I'm just going to tell you, when you sit down with somebody like us at Hoyl, I've been doing this 37 years. Derek had a great point at our educational workshop the other day. He said, all together we have over 100 years of experience. And I'm like, wow, absolutely. But what's important is just having that strategy, making sure, because right now, if you're 59 and a half, you need to take control of your money and stop the bleeding, because, little by little, that market's having that pullback, little by little. And I think it's important because, what? People, they don't know what they don't know. So what I'm going to tell you today, either give your boss 2 more years or call us and give us 2 hours. Let's sit down no matter where you are.
All right, so have you heard of these terms? I'm pretty sure you've heard the first one, Steve, FOMO. That is the fear of missing out. So some people might think, all right, the market's going up. I guess I should jump in because everybody else is. Then you have YOLO here. You only live once, right? That's what people say sometimes when they go skydiving, right? You only live once, so let me jump out of a plane. You might spend like you're just going to die tomorrow, right? Money out the window, doesn't matter. And then you have JOMO here, the joy of missing out. This is the individual that says, I don't care what everybody else is doing. I'm happy in my own lane. I'm not jumping in with anybody else. So, Steve, which of these conditions would be best for a retiree to adopt?
Well, I think it's interesting when you think about FOMO, the fear of missing out. People come to see us and say, I was at McDonald's having coffee with my buddy and he made all this money. But what he didn't tell him is about the losses. He just told him about the gains. If you really worry about that, you should come sit down with Derek Caldwell, who runs Hoyl Wealth for us, and understand what earnings you've had, what risk you're taking. Let us do a risk score analysis on you and see if you are where you need to be. I love the YOLO, you only live once. I've had a lot of people come and tell me, they come in and they say, I've got this pension, but every other bit of my 401k is gone because I only live once. Nobody in my family's lived past 55 years old, and I'm 62 and I'm still here, but I have no other money. They lived every day. There's got to be a balance. You can't do that. I love the JOMO, the joy of missing out. My mom's 81 and my dad's 88. And, he drives a 2008 Chevy pickup. And, Jess, we begged him for years to get a new pickup that had a backup camera. Now he can't turn his neck. Hopefully he doesn't drive much. He shouldn't be. But I watch him. He just puts it in gear and starts backing up.
Oh, geez.
And I would always say, don't you need a new pickup? Well, no, I love red and I love this 4-door pickup. Okay. Well, now he should have gotten that little Tacoma Toyota pickup. Just 20 years ago, people bought new cars because of dependability. They really needed one. Today, my Lexus with 190 some odd thousand miles on it, it's good for another 100,000. But a lot of people go buy new cars because they're bored. Their neighbor got one. It's dirty. It needs new tires. Just those basic things, because cars these days last so long for the most part. But it's just interesting. So I have a lot of people say, why would I want a new car? And they're really right. I've got a lot of clients that have these 15-year-old Avalons. I remember back in the day, these older people, they drove these Grand Marquis. They were like moving yachts. And they said, why do I need a new car? So I think those people win big. They finish first. They leave money behind to their family. So, it's different strokes for different folks. But I think there needs to be a really good balance about that. I think it's important.
That website, retiretexasstyle.com.
Jess, as we talk about these, I think what's most important is thinking about people in that retirement red zone. I've got clients, we get their plan all set up, they're happy. They were driving through the neighborhood, there was an open house, and they just wrote a contract full price for it. Then they come to see us and say, we're going to have to take money out to pay out. Well, it wrecks their entire income strategy. These are the things when you sit down with us and put this plan in place, say, 2 years from now, I'm thinking about buying a new house. If that's what you want to do, we can factor that in and make it work. But we have to talk about that in the beginning. So 5 years before retirement, 5 years after, one bad decision can wreck everything. On the other side, the joy of missing out, some of those people, they're putting money in books. They're putting money under the bed. They're hiding money. Their kids find money in clothes. So I think opposites attract, but having a good, healthy balance is so important. It's interesting, Jess, after doing this for 37 years, people come to see me and say, Steve, when I retire, I'm going to remodel my house. We're going to paint, get carpet. We're going to my wife wants a new kitchen. We're going to do it. Or people call and say, I've never been more than 200 miles away, but when I retire, we're going to see the world. And Jess, history repeats itself. Most of those people never do any of those things. I think it's so important when you think about retirement. Back in the old days, Jess, and you're just going to laugh. Have you ever heard of TG&Y?
Only because you've mentioned it.
Well, it was like a dime dollar store, like a little Hobby Lobby, okay? It had these poster boards, these white poster boards. And, back in the day, I kept those in my office. When people come in and you've got a couple, opposites attract, and they don't know what they want to do, but they don't want to sit around with the other one. I would get this poster board, magazines, and say, here, you take some of these magazines, get them from home, print some stuff out on the computer, but make a storyboard about what you want to do. And it really helped couples come together. Today we have Pinterest. You could do that right there online. But I'm going to tell you something. People would come back with that storyboard. They'd come back holding hands because they all of a sudden figured out what they wanted to do in that final phase of life called retirement. Then we could take that and we could figure out the money. Because, Jess, I say so often, it's 25% about the numbers and 75% about the emotions in retirement. So we have to figure out what retirement looks like. But I'm going to tell you, and you're just going to laugh at me, but remote controls are a big problem. Who's going to handle it? All of a sudden, the husband leaves all the mail across the kitchen counter. Everybody needs their space. Or all of a sudden, she brings a bunch of craft stuff and puts it in the garage. Oh, wait, that's his garage. But I'm going to tell you, these things become a big deal in retirement. So it's kind of fun to talk about, but it's real.
Yeah, exactly. It is real. And those are questions you should be asking yourself is, what do I want to do in retirement? Where do I want to go? What goals do I have? And listen, it is very, very common that folks say, I haven't thought about that, Steve, because all I've been doing is hoping and praying that I've saved enough, I've sacrificed enough. And once you are able to lay that plan down, that income plan, and you show them like, hey, here's the foundation, here's how concrete it is, here's what we're going to do if this scenario happens. Now that's the fun part of taking that poster board or what have you, creating the list of things that you want to do, and also being able to find the balance and the budget with that, because there's a difference, Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, if you take maybe 1 or 2 big trips a year versus 5. At some point, Steve may have to say, hey, man, you got to slow down, or in 10 years, we're going to have a problem.
That's what we tell our clients, just after we sit down, we put a plan together, and all of a sudden, people say to me, now, when I retire in 6 weeks, what am I going to do for my income? We can make that income come every other week, just like it was in retirement. I think the other thing that we really help people do is put that emergency plan together. Jess, I see people come see us that have a couple $1 million in the oil field. They have $140,000 of credit card debt. Houston, we got to fix that. It's easy to fix when you sit down, you put the numbers on the table, and we figure it out. I see it all the time. Having a strong emergency plan so it does not wipe out your income plan or future growth is everything. Right now, just as this market's kind of coming down, this is not the time to come in and take some money to fix an air conditioner or a car problem. That's your bucket that you want to wait till it comes back up. Don't use discounted dollars if you don't have to. So it's important. Jess, We talk about money. We talk about emotions. But you know what? Knowing the numbers, because the numbers never lie. But you know what we're talking about? We're talking about human relations. You know, retirement planning, it's about having a strong income plan, having a strong estate plan, having a strong tax plan, making sure if you have to go to a nursing home, you have a plan. All of a sudden, if you have a terminal illness, what are you going to do? You know, all these different things in this wheelhouse are all so important. What's important is don't leave one out. Someday we'll sit on the show and talk about each one of them individually. But I'm going to tell you, when you sit down with Hoyl, you're going to get to experience the Hoyl difference. So call today. Let's do a Zoom. I don't care if you're in the Oklahoma Panhandle, if you're on the edge of New Mexico, or some little town by Brady, Texas. Let's just get together, put that plan together. Let's get started today. It's that added peace of mind of knowing I've got a plan and this is exactly where I'm going. Because you know, right now with the war and all the uncertainties, you don't have to worry about Wall Street. You don't have to worry about Pennsylvania Avenue. Let's worry about your street, what happens at your house for the future. I'm Steve Hoyl. You know, I've been doing this for 37 years. Sit down with us. Let's get started today.
If you'd like to sit down with Steve and Derek or a member of the Hoyl Financial Group, visit retiretexasstyle.com.
Investment advice offered through Hoyl Wealth Management, a Texas-registered investment advisor able to provide investment advice in states where it's registered, exempt, or excluded from registration. Content contained herein should not be construed as an offer or solicitation for investment advice or for the purchase or sale of any security, insurance, or other investment product. Investments involve the risk of loss, including possible loss of principal. Please consult with a qualified financial, tax, accounting, or legal professional before implementing any ideas or strategies discussed here. Content provided is obtained from sources believed to be reliable but cannot be guaranteed as to its accuracy or completeness. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance products, including annuities offered through Steve Hoyl, Texas Insurance License 716036. Annuity guarantees rely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing insurance company. Read your contract for restrictions, limitations, or penalties. Steve Hoyl is not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if Steve Hoyl is licensed in your state, please call 806-371-9473.